I'm Mark, this is Wild Duo, and I will now explain you Manakin mates. So let's have a look at the rules of Manakin mates. So in Manakin mates, when you start the game, you place the rainforest board in front of you, and you take out all the bird tiles from the green bag. And then one of the player takes 6 white birds and one takes 6 purple birds. It's very important that the birds, they have like both colors. But in the beginning you start like this. So one player plays purple, one plays white. So what is the game about? So in the game it's all about these male Manakin birds, and you try to find a good group, because these birds always perform a very complicated mating dance, and so you try to find like a synchronized group that works together very well. And in the game this means, so how do you win the game? If you manage to have 4 in a row, you win the game. It's very important that if you have 5 in a row, you automatically lose the game. So it's never allowed to have 5 in a row. Even if you have 4 in a row and 5 in a row at the same time, you lose the game, because 5 in a row always loses the game. It's also important that these 4 in a row, they can also be horizontally, or they can also be diagonally, like this. So how does the game start? So it's always the case that purple starts, because purple has a slight disadvantage on the board. But this I will explain in a second, but purple always has to start. So how do you play? You take turns, and once it's your turn, you can perform one of 2 actions. The first action you can do is you can place one of your birds. The second possibility would be to move one of your birds that you have already placed on the board. So how does placement work? So placing works like this, that I can place one of my birds that I have here in stock on one of the empty fields here on the board. So for example like this, and then it would be white's turn, could place one of the bird. It's very important that the only rule when it comes to placement is you can't place a bird on one of the other birds. That's not possible. And it's also important that when over the time we would place our birds, you can never win the game with placing 4 in a row. So 4 in a row you always have to achieve with a movement, right? Movement I will explain in a second, but it's just important. You can never place one of your tiles and win the game like this, because now you would have achieved 4 in a row. But it's important, if you for some reason place a 5 in a row, then you can lose the game. So 5 in a row always loses. Doesn't matter how you achieve it, you directly lose. But you can never win with placing one of your tiles. So, and now how does movement works? So once I have placed some of my tiles, or at least one, I can now move it. So how do these birds move? They can always move one field, vertically, diagonally, or horizontally. Same for white. There is one exception. If purple stands on a purple tree, it can move the whole diagonal here. So it's possible to move from here to here, but also to the very end. And same with white. If white stands on the white trees, it can move all the diagonal here. So it has way more degrees of freedom. And since there are a bit more white squares than purple ones, purple has to start, because purple has a slight disadvantage on the board. The green trees, they are neutral. So this means that here all doesn't matter if you have a white bird or a purple bird, and when you move it, you can move it only in one direction. Same of course is true if the purple bird is on white, then it also can only move one field and not the whole diagonal, because only it has to be the case that purple is on purple. So movement is very important, because I already explained before, you can only win the game with a move. So if I move, for example, this bird here, then now I have 4 in a row. It's not allowed to win by a placement. So moving is very important. And moving has also another thing that can happen when you move a tile. So first I have to place some tiles here that I can explain you this a bit better, right? So let's do it like this. So this is like an advanced setup. So so the game was already played some turns, and now it would be white's turn. So white would now move then they are birthed here. So now some stuff happens. Because when you encircle a bird of the other color like this, so this would be in the sandwich, this purple bird would be in the sandwich of these two white ones, then it gets flipped. And that's also the reason why we have these two colored tiles, because these birds, they can be flipped and now they are in your team and now you can move them, right? So, and it's again very important that a flip can only happen after a movement, right? If you do that with a placing, nothing happens. But if you move it, then some stuff happens. And it's very important. For example, now we have the bird here in the sandwich. We would flip it, but there would also be something else happening. We would also, now it would be a double flip, because now, see again, if I move it like this, I have a sandwich here and I have a sandwich here. And now white would win the game because it's 4 in a row and it was achieved by a movement or together with a flip, but it could also be only a movement. It would also have been possible just to move here. But since it's not done by a placement, white would win the game. Also important, let's now, for example, assume this piece wouldn't be here, but white would again move here, right? Then again the flip would happen, but very important, once a flip is done, there is no second flip, because this one is flipped, we would have another sandwich here, but this would not lead to another flip. That's very important. So you only have the flips that you directly achieve with the first sandwiches, but there are no following sandwiches that lead to more flips, right? That will not happen. So let's go back to the situation. Let's assume now, for example, the bird would be here and we would have here a purple bird. One also very important thing is, if I move here with my bird, it doesn't get flipped. So flipping and winning only occurs if you do if you achieve it actively. So if I move here, or if I even place something here, nothing happens. So I can place my birds in a sandwich and nothing happens. But if the other bird moves like this and then the sandwich and there is a flip, then they can win the game. It's also like a last thing that I also want to mention. You can also do a double flip like this. That would also be possible. So you can flip even 2 birds. Again, important if you would do something like this. If you would do this and everything here would flip, then you again lose the game because it's 5 in a row. So yeah, just keep in mind, you win the game with achieving 4 in a row, and you have to do it by flipping another bird or by a movement, never by a placement, and that's Manakin birds.